you say that everything has to be approved. That is false. You know that it's false. In each teacher's individual library, they have the discretion to keep what books they wish to have in their rooms. Those books are actually not vetted by the school board, and I know this personally because my 14-year-old son last year was reading a very, very graphic sexual novel. It had nothing to do with sexual education. It had to do with abortion, gang violence. Everything that we tried to shield our children from in the real world was given to my child. When I went to the school board meeting to read one passage from that book, when I went back to listen to that school board meeting on YouTube, they muted what I was reading. And there was an excerpt on the bottom that said, violates school community standards. You think that's appropriate?
There is one correction. I said that parents had the right to opt out of anything related to sex ed.
I did opt out.
Okay, but you said, I said something different. So
No, these books that are in these classrooms are not.
We do have to move
vetted.
on, please.
That's a
Sorry,
fact.
I
Thank you.
apologize.
Thank you.
Representative Wolford.
Thank you, Chair. I find it ironic that when I put forth a bill to keep men out of women's sports, everyone said that it wasn't a big enough population or an issue for it to be something voted on. Yet we've spent this entire time talking on those issues on that same small amount of people. Having said that, our schools, ma'am, would you agree were built on reading, writing, arithmetic, American history, and the story of liberty, and that's what originally made us great. Would you agree on that? I know you couldn't agree that 2 + 2 = 4, but I think that we could possibly agree on that. Would you agree?
I did agree that 2 + 2 = 4. I agree that schools were built for a variety of reasons on different principles.
Okay, so having said that, the chair talked about that our scores have plummeted 20 points in the last 10 years, and our proficiency in reading is at 50%. So knowing that those are all the issues, why would you continue to push this agenda on LGBTQ, transgender, all of those things within your education, knowing that the things that made us great, the things that from the schoolhouse to the factories that helped us win World War II and create some of the most incredible minds, splitting the atom, etc. Yet we're focused on this. So my questions to you is, one, would you agree, since you said that people are suffering in these areas, to teach again that there is one God who created man and woman, that you would create, or that you would teach that he formed that baby in its mother's womb, and maybe that might help with some of these issues? That's the one question. Second question, are you planning to adopt these standards, even though the public is obviously against these and it's not constitutional? So those are my two questions for you. Thank you.
I'll go with the second one first. The comments that we received on the standards had to do with parent opt-out. There needs to be clarity around that, which we will work on based on the comments that we received. Parents can opt out of any portion of instruction related to sex education.
Okay, the problem with opting out, and this is my last thing, Chair, is even when you opt out, even in a very conservative district like ours, in the library, there's books that show and teach kids how to masturbate, how to have anal sex. I don't see how this opt-out. As a matter of fact, I think we should just eliminate the sex ed department altogether. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Department of Education sets the standards for what is required for graduation, correct? Like you have to take reading, correct, to graduate, so many credits of reading, so many credits of science, so many blah, blah, blah.
The legislature set the requirements for graduation. We provide the standards to use for those requirements in content areas.
But health is required for graduation, a health class, government class. Sex education is not.
Except for HIV.
Except for
communicable diseases.
So my question is gender identity considered sex education?
Yes.
So the melding of, and this has been brought up multiple times, so that being taught in another class, say social studies or something, that would be considered sex education.
If it was taught in another class, it has to be taught by somebody who's trained.
Okay, but if they're not trained, then there's
Then you can't
process
teach
to
it
get.
if it's not part of something that's been approved by the board or the sex ed advisory committee. It cannot be taught. It should not be taught.
Are there science teachers teaching flat earth theory, do you think? I mean, the Department of Education would be against that because that's probably not accepted, but there's people that actually believe that may be teaching that. I think the melding, and that's been brought up multiple times, is how as a parent, and I believe sex education should be sex education, not health, where a parent can opt out completely, not have this cross pollination, if you will. I think that's been brought up multiple times, and that's what I'm stressing again. Ma'am.
Thank
you, Doctor, for being here.
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Doctor, thank you for taking the time to be here, answer the questions, give your position. We always appreciate the open dialogue, so thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much.
We are going to move to a video. We did invite the Michigan Board of Education here today as well. The only individual who chose to provide a statement is School Board Member Nikki Snyder. There was a video provided to us, and we are going to play that video at this time.
I reject the sex education standards that the Michigan Department of Education is presenting under the guise of the health education Michigan lawfully requires for graduation. As a member of the State Board of Education and a school nurse, I am experienced with the everyday reality of the needs of students in schools here in Michigan. Sex education is sex education. Health education is health education. Our legislature has a history of honoring the separation of these two courses for a number of good reasons. First, Michigan's legal structure has long declared that parents have the primary authority in their children's lives, especially as it relates to controversial concepts of identity formation. Our Constitution and laws provide for this not to protect one group of students, but to protect all individual students being raised by the many different families we have across the state of Michigan that identify with values that differ from one another. Instead of allowing parents to shape values at home, the proposed health standards wrongly leverage state authority to teach gender identity, gender expression, biological sex, sexuality, and the process of seeking approved sources of information that defines any one of these concepts. What children in schools need to be taught is that we live in a state and country that is diverse, with many families that come from different sets of values, and that we are to respect and honor the freedom that every individual has to hold a set of values that are different from one another. The government and schools, as an extension of the services provided by the government, have no business shaping students' values and beliefs about controversial concepts like identity formation by adopting specific definitions of those values, claiming what sources of information that define those values are valid or not valid, and setting sex education standards that break current law of requiring parental opt-out by confusing those standards with health education credits. Second, health education is in fact important. The topics that are outlined in our health education standards law and required for graduation under the Michigan Merit Curriculum include drugs, narcotics, alcohol, tobacco, mental health, dental health, vision care, nutrition, disease prevention and control, accident prevention, and related health and safety topics. Again, as a school nurse, I can tell you that we are suffering from a number of things that need attention. Students who feel as though they need to go home because they are experiencing a minor symptom without any signs of serious illness are a significant contributing cause of chronic absenteeism. Many students struggle to understand how their bodies work, including the importance of healthy blood sugar and making choices to eat sufficient protein. This impacts the way the brain works and how information can be learned and retained. With the legalization of cannabis, the danger of understanding what a gummy is and what gummy bears are is a real issue, as well as how often alcoholism can be traced back to the first drink in high school. Understanding the importance of speaking up and going to an authority with information was a real issue in the Oxford shooting. Reports of students staying home anticipating safety issues that dark day when school administration did not address real threats in real time, which led to lives lost and a mental health crisis within a community that now still suffers long term. This continues to be one of the most unfortunate opportunities to understand what can actually be done about school safety. What is not necessary is replacing the importance of allowing these true health education topics to be taught and confusing them with topics like gender identity. While students with gender dysphoria have mental health needs, it should never be acceptable for a Department of Education to politically hijack those needs and use them to divide the people of Michigan in their effort to retain power and control in an established education system so many Michiganders are seeking to change for the better. Finally, we understand that overly sexualized health education standards demonstrate a much bigger education governance problem in Michigan that needs to be addressed. We have a bureaucratic body, the Department of Education, disregarding a U.S. Supreme Court opinion and interpreting Michigan laws as if they are a judge and legislators, administratively writing policy that reshapes laws and removes protected rights in a manner wholly inconsistent with legislative intent and the plain meaning of the original law. There is no real accountability to their actions whatsoever. The governor has no power or authority over the DOE or its employees that are led by a superintendent mostly selected by a majority of one political party since 1963. That majority has refused to do anything about the most controversial issues that parents have brought before the State Board of Education for decades. The DOE is currently moving these standards unilaterally under an interim superintendent that has refused to give an email address or appropriate contact information for Dr. Maleko, the next state superintendent that was selected through a very corrupt process. These standards are being pushed before he starts as a clear effort to shield him from what he should have to own. These sex education standards should be stopped. Our laws governing health education standards should be taken seriously. And our Department of Education, State Superintendent, and State Board of Education need serious review for effectiveness. Our educational governance has led our state to be at the bottom, and we are not on a path that will lead us to the top 10 anytime soon. We have much work to do. Thank you.
We are going to run a little bit long, so I will go at ease for a minute. Anybody that needs to take a 5-minute break here.